It all started with a piece of paper, a seemingly innocuous document that would set in motion a chain of events no one could have predicted. An ancient yellowed map, brittle as old bones, its edges frayed and worn from years of neglect. The paper felt thin, almost translucent, as if it might crumble to dust at any moment. It arrived at Parker Schnabel's camp in a leather-bound box, its contents hinting at secrets long buried. The box itself was a testament to time, the leather cracked and faded, the metal clasps rusted and stiff, a relic from a forgotten prospector, a ghost from the Yukon's gold rush past, whispering tales of fortunes found and lives lost. The map's hand-drawn lines marked a remote Yukon corner, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors. The ink, once vibrant, had faded to a sepia tone, yet the details remained remarkably clear. A place even seasoned miners avoided, a region known for its treacherous terrain and unsettling silence. Stories circulated of strange occurrences, unexplained disappearances, and a palpable sense of unease. Landmarks like Weeping Widow Creek, its name alone enough to send shivers down your spine, and Hangman's Ridge were scrawled in faded ink, their ominous titles painting a grim picture of the area's history. Each name seemed to carry a weight of sorrow and despair, with a single X labelled Forsaken, a stark, unsettling designation that hinted at something far more sinister than just bad luck. Alongside it, a cryptic note warned of a treasure beyond gold, a prize that came with a heavy price. The words were carefully chosen, hinting at a power that could corrupt even the purest of hearts. And a darkness that never slept, a malevolent presence that watched and waited, its influence permeating every corner of Forsaken. Most would dismiss it as a madman's ramblings, the fevered dreams of a gold-crazed prospector lost to the wilderness. But in the Yukon, legend and history are inseparable, intertwined like the roots of ancient trees, blurring the line between fact and folklore. Parker and his crew gathered around the map, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a lantern, their eyes tracing the faded lines and cryptic symbols. Drawn in by its mystery and the promise of an untouched claim, a chance to strike it rich where others had failed, or perhaps had simply vanished. The decision to follow it wasn't easy. The area was infamous for cave-ins and disappearances, a graveyard for dreams and a testament to the Yukon's unforgiving nature. Yet the lure was irresistible, the siren song of untold riches echoing in their ears. A secret motherlode, a legend waiting to be unearthed, a chance to rewrite their destinies and etch their names into the annals of Yukon history. Parker's instincts screamed at him. He had to see what lay at Forsaken, to confront the darkness and claim the treasure that awaited. The expedition began not with roaring engines, but with a hush of anticipation, a pregnant silence that spoke volumes about the risks and rewards that lay ahead. The team packed their gear, excitement mixed with dread, each member grappling with their own fears and hopes as they prepared to venture into the unknown, stepping off the grid and into the unknown, leaving behind the familiar comforts of their camp and embracing the uncertainties of Forsaken. The map felt less like a guide, more like a key, still more like an invitation to a forgotten chapter of Yukon history, a dark and unsettling tale that had been deliberately erased from the record. That they weren't just chasing gold, they were chasing something far more elusive. They were chasing a legend, and about to learn why some places are named Forsaken, and why some secrets are best left buried. The journey was brutal, a battle against wilderness and fear. Trucks and equipment crawled through dense forests and swampy muskeg, every mile a hard-won victory. The land grew barren as they neared Hangman's Ridge, twisted pines standing like sentinels. An eerie wind howled through the rocks, and the air turned cold and heavy. Banter faded. The crew moved in silence, feeling the weight of haunted ground. Hidden by brush and rockslide, they found the Forsaken shaft, a crude black maw in the mountain. No tools, no camp, just a gaping entrance exhaling cold, stale air. Parker tossed a rock into the darkness. It vanished without a sound. The shaft felt impossibly deep, the dread at its mouth almost physical. This wasn't just an abandoned mine, it was a tomb, a story with a terrifying final chapter. The crew stood at the edge, knowing they were trespassing on something ancient. The air hung heavy with anticipation and dread. No one dared go down first. The shaft was far too unstable. Decades of disuse and the relentless pressure of the earth had taken their toll. The structural integrity was questionable at best. Instead, with a mix of trepidation and scientific curiosity, they decided to send down a remote camera, a technological scout into the unknown, its powerful LED lights, recently calibrated and tested, piercing the oppressive blackness that had reigned undisturbed for centuries. The beam cut through the darkness, a fragile beacon in an absolute void. The monitor back on the surface flickered erratically as the camera began its slow, deliberate descent, the signal struggling against the immense weight of rock and earth. The lens revealed slick, glistening rock walls, perpetually damp from unseen springs, and glittering mineral veins that snaked through the stone like frozen lightning. The shaft plunged deeper and deeper than initial surveys had indicated. 50, 100, 150 feet. The numbers kept climbing, each one adding to the growing unease. Tension mounted with each passing foot, as the camera finally reached what appeared to be a cavernous chamber, a vast, echoing space at the very bottom of the forgotten mine. Old, rusted mining tools lay scattered haphazardly across the uneven floor, abandoned in haste, silent testaments to a long-forgotten disaster. But then, at the center of the chamber, something utterly impossible. A human-shaped form curled tightly on the cold, unforgiving stone floor. With bated breath, the camera drew closer, revealing a skeleton. But this was no ordinary skeleton, not bone-white as expected, but blazing with the radiant color of gold. Every single bone, from the delicate structure of the skull to the slender bones of the fingertips, gleamed with the unmistakable luster of pure, unadulterated metal. The skeleton lay curled in a tight fetal position, as if frozen in a final desperate act of terror. The sight was both magnificent in its impossible beauty and utterly horrifying in its implications. Logic and established science utterly failed to provide any explanation. This was undeniably a human skeleton, yet it was composed entirely of solid gold, an impossibility made real. The mining crew stared at the monitor in stunned silence, their faces pale in the flickering light, realizing with growing disbelief that they had stumbled upon a legend, a mythic tale suddenly brought to life before their very eyes. The dark, silent abyss had finally given up its long-held secret, and it was far, far more extraordinary and potentially more dangerous than anyone could have ever bargained for. The golden skeleton left the crew speechless. Parker snapped into action. This was no ordinary recovery. They rigged a padded basket and chose their steadiest hand for the descent. The miner's voice crackled over the radio as he entered the cold, silent chamber. He described the bones as unnaturally heavy, dense with gold. Piece by piece he lifted the remains, treating them with reverence. The ascent was tense, the winch strained under the weight. When the basket emerged, sunlight set the skeleton ablaze with impossible brilliance. It was real. A perfectly articulated human skeleton of solid gold. The myth had come into the light, and its reality was more terrifying than any legend. The crew realized they'd unearthed something that defied explanation. Laid out carefully on a dark tarp, as if presented for some unholy ceremony, the golden skeleton was both beautiful and horrifying, a paradox of artistry and dread. It was a sight that challenged their understanding of the natural world. Every bone was perfectly formed, each ridge and curve meticulously rendered in solid gold, yet entirely metal, defying the very essence of organic structure. It was an alchemical impossibility made real. Parker, his hand trembling slightly, tapped a femur. It chimed with the pure, resonant ring of gold, a sound that echoed the unnatural perfection of the find. The crew, seasoned experts in the identification and extraction of gold, were visibly shaken. This was far beyond mere monetary value, beyond any logical explanation or scientific reason. No one celebrated. The air was thick with unease. The find felt more like a dire warning, a harbinger of something terrible than a treasure to be claimed. Parker, desperate for answers, immediately called a university geologist, hoping for a rational explanation, but the geologist initially dismissed it as utterly impossible. That is, until he saw the high-resolution photographs Parker sent. "Don't move it! Don't touch it under any circumstances! We're coming!" the expert said, his voice laced with urgency and a hint of fear. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the excavation site, The skeleton seemed to glow with an unnatural, eerie light, a palpable sense of dread settling heavily over the entire team. The initial shock slowly faded, replaced by a chilling, unspoken question that hung in the air. What dark and terrible force could possibly turn a man's bones into solid gold? The answer, they began to realize with growing horror, might not be found within the comfortable confines of established science. The ancient whispered legends of the Yukon, tales dismissed as folklore, had suddenly come alive, and the reality was far darker, more sinister and more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The crew, unable to shake the feeling of impending doom, kept a nervous vigil throughout the night, anxiously waiting for answers and desperately hoping for dawn, each of them haunted by the implications of what they had unearthed. The Golden Man was clearly no ordinary archaeological discovery. It was a chilling monument, a testament to a terrible, unknown fate, and perhaps a warning to those who dared to disturb its rest. Scientists arrived, their skepticism vanishing at the sight of the skeleton. Tests confirmed the impossible. The bones were solid, nearly pure gold, not coated or plated. Microscopic analysis revealed the metal mimicked bone structure perfectly, molecule for molecule. No known process could explain it. Every theory collapsed under scrutiny. The lead anthropologist called it alchemical petrification, a miracle or a curse. The artifact defied all science, gleaming in the Yukon sun. The experts were left speechless, forced to admit this should not exist. The golden skeleton was a beautiful, terrifying enigma, one that science could not solve. With science stumped, the crew turned to local legend. Elder Elias of the Trondek Huechin arrived, recognizing the skeleton with sorrow. He told of Silas Thorne, a prospector consumed by greed, who ignored warnings and sought a cursed motherlode. Silas found his gold but refused to leave, hoarding it in darkness. The land, tired of his avarice, cursed him. His flesh turned to dust, his bones to gold. Silas became one with his treasure, trapped forever in a glittering cage. The story, once dismissed as myth, now felt chillingly real. The crew saw not a fortune, but the remains of a man destroyed by greed. The legend explained what science could not. Some treasures demand a terrible price. Silas Thorne had become the Golden Man, a warning to all who would follow. The golden skeleton brought no joy, only unease. The artifact was sent to a university, but its shadow lingered over the crew. Camaraderie faded. Arguments and strange mishaps plagued the camp. Gold yields dropped, equipment failed, and whispers of a curse spread. Even Parker, ever rational, felt the weight of dread and guilt. Nightmares haunted him, empty golden eyes, a silent scream. The story of the Golden Man spread through the Yukon, dividing opinion. Some called Parker a hero, others warned he'd unleashed something best left buried. The skeleton became a scientific marvel, but its curse remained, chilling the hearts of those who'd seen it. The forsaken shaft was sealed, but the legend endured. The price of disturbing Silas's tomb was more than gold. It was a shadow that would never lift. The golden skeleton remains an unsolved mystery, a beautiful horror that defies explanation. For scientists, it's a fascination. For those who found it, a warning. The story of Silas Thorne is a fable of greed's ultimate cost. True wealth, they learned, isn't dug from the ground. The skeleton is priceless and worthless, a monument to a wasted life. Parker and his crew were changed. Learning some legends are rooted in terrible truth. The shaft is sealed, but the story endures. A caution whispered on the Yukon wind. Some treasures carry a price too high, better left in darkness. The Golden Man's fate is a warning. Some mysteries are best left unfound. Please subscribe to our channel History Documentary Hub for more insightful videos and intriguing content.